if you're like me, you might not have an outlet to which you can ascribe this, but if you've ever been struck by the thought that everyone else around you is an NPC, or the majority of the people around you are NPCs, um, or you just feel like you're the only person that has any free will or free thinking, then you are like, you're kind of welcome to my purview, right? Um, and I'm not exactly into it's, I guess you could call it sort of solipsism. If you don't know, solipsism is the idea that it's a philosophical concept. The idea that you can only know for 100% certain that your brain is constant, right? You can't, because you think, you know, cogito ergo sum, as Rene Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. But you can't ascribe that to anyone else, right? You can't think for them, right? So you have no way of knowing if everyone else around you is NPCs or robots that have no free will. The only thing you can be certain of is you, right? You can't say, I think, therefore you are, right? So I think, therefore I am, is kind of the general concept. But I wouldn't call myself a solipsist. Um, because I will say for certain that I have met other people that I can be like 100% that person has a free thinking mind and is a critical thinker and is free willed, right? But on the flip side of that, I'd say a good estimate is that 95% of people are NPCs. If you don't know what an NPC is, it just means non playable character. It's basically like in a video game where there's a character that you're playing, but um, there's the characters that are just programming in the game. They're not real. They're not being controlled by other people, right? So I guess solipsism in that sense would kind of be like playing God of War, if you will, where you're the only one person. But my point of view is more something that would align towards a co-op game that you can play with your friends, right? Where there's multiple people that are player-controlled characters. Just kind of breaking it down for, you know, I'm not the biggest video game guy, but just to break it down for kind of the age range that I guess is watching my videos. Um, and it's just, so just to go off of that real quick, right? It's not, I wouldn't call it a hubris or anything egotistical on my part. And I'll go into that later, why that is, but it's just generally, if you think about it, right? Even if you're someone that I would call an NPC, someone without agency, someone without free thinking, you can undoubtedly think about someone else in your life um, that you would say like 100%. They're just like people with like 10 to 12 hours of screen time that are just constantly on their phone, constantly always plugged in on their AirPods, those type of people that you can look at and be like, yeah, I mean, look at them. They're literally just, they're so consumed with this. They have no other outside thoughts going on, right? So it is a hard concept to grapple with, and it sounds egotistical if you try to tell anyone else about it, but it's really not. It's not really. Being an NPC or someone without agency isn't really a bad thing, and reasons that I'll go into later. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to put that out there, right? That's kind of what my worldview is. And that is kind of one of the reasons I started this channel. I wanted to make this channel for people that also know this, that can recognize that they're a higher thinker than everyone else around them. And I just wanted to connect with other people through this channel that are like that. So that is just what I wanted to do. And what would clarify, what would constitute an NPC? So like I said earlier, someone that has like just a crap ton of screen time, right? They're just always on their phone. They're just, always scrolling in social media and stuff, someone that always has those AirPods in. And I think I'll stop it right there because I did want to make a video in the future once I get a more capable, like, right now all my videos have been recorded on my phone, but once I get like a laptop and actual editing skills and stuff, I wanted to make a tier list on stuff that I believe makes you an NPC, right? So I'll stop it right there. But real quick, I'll go into stuff that I believe, constitutes someone that is not an NPC, right? So, again, like I said, 95% of people are just, they have no agency, no free thinking, no free thought. Um, but what would constitute someone that is not an NPC? And be honest with yourself when you think about this. You know, a lot of people, I've met a few people that believe them to be, or I've met a few people that funnily, like, I guess the oldest Bible saying, right? Why do you point out the speck in your brother's eye and not recognize the plank in your own eye, right? Like, I've met a few people that will enter into the habit of calling other people NPCs when they are just as big as NPCs themselves. So be honest with yourself if you are. And again, it's not a bad thing for reasons that I'll go into later, right? But like, I've met a few of those people that have 10 to 12 hours screen time and they'll still have the audacity to try to call others NPCs, right? Like, come on, buddy, you flood yourself with constant stimulation and dopamine. I don't think you're exactly one either. So, I just wanted, right, so what I think makes someone not an NPC. So the people that I've met that I can say for certain, like, this is someone that also has a conscience, that also has free thinking and is free-willed. Um, Number one, they are already into philosophy. They are deep into philosophical concepts. They have a knowledge of philosophical, you know, subjects, and they are able to grapple with these concepts pretty well and articulate themselves in an intelligent way to other people around them. That does not mean necessarily that anyone that takes philosophy, so like someone could take philosophy as a class and learn about it and never think about it outside of class. That's not, just simply taking philosophy or reading about it doesn't make you instantly not an NPC, right? You actually have to apply it to real life and actually think about it in situations outside of the classroom, right? Like if someone takes philosophy for college as a major, right? And then after that they're like, they forget everything about it and they're not thinking about it anymore. That's not someone that is now not an NPC, right? So yeah, some and something else that can make people not an NPC is they don't struggle with understanding philosophical concepts, right? So like it would be silly for me to say I was an NPC, but after I learned philosophy, I no longer was one. Um, so if I've ever met somebody that they don't know about philosophy, but when I pose questions to them or when I pose, philosophical concepts to them, they're able to understand it very clearly and can articulate a position on the matter intelligently. That's someone is not an NPC, because if they continued to learn philosophy after that, they would understand it well, right? So the process of learning philosophy does not exclude you from being an NPC, like I said. For my example earlier, someone that went to philosophy to be a philosophy major in college but doesn't think about it outside of the classroom, that's not someone that is now someone with agency and free thinking because they learned philosophy in college. Um, so it's people that have the inclination to think, to be able to think outside of the external stimuli that are being provided them in their daily life, that are more than just, I don't want to say animals because that's going to make it sound like an insult, but the best way that I can put it is people that are NPCs are kind of just, they're going with the flow, right? They're just responding to the stimuli that is being instantly provided to them, and they don't think about anything outside of that. They don't grasp, they don't struggle with the concepts of meaning of life, and stuff, right? So, people that are, so if you meet someone that's into philosophy and is deeply in tune with it and thinking about these questions, or someone that has never, taken philosophy formally or even read about it, but when you pose these questions to them, they are able to, give a intelligent, erudite answer on them, then that is most likely not an NPC, right? So it's just that basically. It's just the idea that you're able to examine your life, and not everyone is inclinated to being that. Um, and not everyone is meant to be someone with free thinking. And maybe this is like a branch, an offshoot of philosophy, my own type of solipsism. But I was just thinking how funny it would be that, like, maybe in reality there's only about like 1 million to like 10 million, maybe even like, I said 95% of the world, so that'd be like 400 million, right? So anywhere below like 400 million, there's actually, in reality, there's only 400 million souls in existence, and they're just being um, on the earth. Out of the 8 billion people, there's only like 400 million. Um, sorry, whoa, is my math off there? No, it would be if 95%. Okay. Anyways, a low number, in the millions, anywhere from 1 to like 40 million, I think is where my math should be, right? 40 million, yeah. So 1 to 40 million. Um, you know, it's, no, it would be 400 million. Okay, whatever. Math is not important right now. Yeah, this is a philosophy video, not math video. Anyways, but just that low number. Anyways, kind of to what I'm saying is there's only like, let's just settle on 5 million, right? There's only 5 million souls in existence, and everyone else is NPCs. But those 5 million souls are recycled. So when one of them dies, when a person that is not an NPC dies, that soul is given to someone else, right? I think that's gonna be my own little school of philosophy thought. Not solipsism, but that rather. That there's a very limited amount of souls in use, and not everyone has one. But I guess I've been talking kind of critically of these people, but I want to clarify that it's not a bad thing. I don't think being an NPC is a bad thing. I won't claim that everyone that I surround myself with are non-NPCs, right? So I have plenty of friends that are these NPCs, people without agency, as you would call them. They're not bad people in any way. And, it's not an insult to call someone that, I think. I think we have to stop calling people that as an insult, especially if you are an NPC yourself. So it's like, pot calling the kettle black. But it's not. I don't mean it as an insult to say that. And in fact, there's a few advantages of being an NPC that I would posit here, and that is one that I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, but there's a common saying that if you're happy, don't go into philosophy, and that's 100% true. Um, if you are someone that is generally a happy person with your life, do not go into philosophy because it will make you ponder these deep questions. And within philosophy, you have things like nihilism and existentialism. And those things will give you deep moment for reflection, and it will cause you to have anxious, depressing thoughts. And these are not things that can be resolved, unfortunately. When you're an NPC, most of your problems, 99% of your problems, are able to be resolved with a happy ending. I mean, unless you get, a Men in Black pen and erase your memory, unfortunately, those thoughts are there to stay. You can't get rid of the nihilistic thoughts. As you see in my channel description, I struggle with thoughts of nihilism. And, thankfully, I'm a Christian, so I have that faith to fall back onto to counter the nihilistic thoughts. But if you're not, it is really hard to struggle with. As Albert Camus says, it's a pretty common concept that Albert Camus posits that, like, if you're not a believer in God, you really have to analyze deep down and find out what is your meaning of life, right? Because if there's no God and you're simply just an accident, right? Thinking about this critically, what's your meaning of life? There practically is none, And then it has to be, you really got to analyze it. So even me as a Christian, as someone with faith, I still struggle with the thoughts just because they're there and they're so perverse. It's not something that you can resolve. Like I said, those are going to be there. The best that you can do is think about them, confront them head on. It's never good to try to shove them away because that'll just bottle them up even more and then they explode on you. So best you can do is confront the thoughts and try your best to resolve them. As Socrates says, the unexamined life is not worth living. So and it's, as Albert Camus posits, I'm reading his book right now, The Myth of Sisyphus, and it's a collection of a bunch of his essays, and I'll give a book review on that when I'm done. You know, you gotta really examine and confront what is your meaning for life. So, yeah. That's pretty much it for the video, I think. You know, oh, and real quick, I wanted to say, like, you know, so again, it's not a bad thing to be an NPC because you're not really plagued with these thoughts. And it has been tempting to me a few times to think, like, wow, you know, how would it be like if I was just someone that, you know, was just kind of going with the flow of life and I didn't have to worry about these thoughts? I'd probably be a lot more happy. So, again, just kind of recap the video, right? 95% of people are without agency, they don't have free will or thinking. But being an NPC is not a bad thing at all. And you can't really make yourself not an NPC, you just have to have the natural inclination of it. So I just wanted to make this channel to try to reach out and find other people that are like me. I'm going to try to start making more philosophical videos. I know most of my stuff has been book reviews and movies so far, which I want to keep doing. But, you know, this is the type of content that I want to make, what I'm doing right now, and stuff like that Minecraft movie video essay, you know, exploring philosophy through different concepts. That's the kind of stuff I want to be doing. So I just want to reach out to other people. Again, being an NPC is not bad. So I'm sure there's a few of the people that I would call those watching my channel, but it's not a bad thing at all. Just wanted to make that video real quick, you know. You can always, and like, even if you are an NPC, you're never going to be able to make yourself not one, but you can always be more of a critical thinker. I'd say there's probably different scales of agency, right? Me, I would say I'm all the way on the spectrum where I am a free thinker, and then, you know, if you have someone that's a full NPC on the other side, like 15 hours of screen time, you have that on the other scale, and then there's probably a few in-betweens that you can get to, but again, it's not really a bad thing. I just wanted to make that as just a lot of people. I'm just trying to outreach for the other people that are that know they're not NPCs, right? I just wanted to outreach and give them a channel where they can watch, where they know the creator is someone like them, right? Because it gets a bit lonely as well, because you just feel like no one else knows what it's like to be that. But thankfully, I found a few people in my immediate social circle that I'm like, that I've discovered were like also free thinkers, thinking the same way that I thought. It was really funny, just a quick short story before, and I'll end this video. I know it's getting kind of long, but like, someone came up to me and expressed that sentiment towards me. They're like, dude, I just want to say I really appreciate you because you're like a free thinker, and you really, you seem like a critical thinker and someone that is free-willed. And I was actually thinking the same thing about them recently, and I wanted to tell them too. So it was so funny to me because I was like, dude, I started laughing. I was like, dude, that's crazy. I was going to tell you the exact same thing. You know, you're like one of the few people I know that's not like an NPC, like someone with free will. So that was cool to find that out, that he thought the same way of me as I did of him. So that was cool. You will find, you know, if you're like me and you're someone with agency and you don't have anyone else that you feel like in your life right now, well, now you got me. But don't worry, you'll find someone soon that is cool to do that. Yeah. It is just cool to meet someone like that, you know, someone that you can talk around with, someone that you can discuss philosophical questions with, discuss how you confront them and bounce off their ideas of what it is, you know. It's really great to do that. It's always a nice thing to be able to have someone, you know, kind of like that person will become like one of your best friends just because they know what it's like and you know what it's like, and you guys can talk about it together. But yeah, that's about it for this video. Just wanted to give my thoughts on that. So yeah, that's about it. See you guys.